Morocco. This kingdom, forged from Arab, European, and African cultures, offers us the exotic magic of the Orient right next door to Europe. It's hard to resist as the country's enchanting light works its magic on you. And the people we're going to meet are all reflections of that warm glow. Abdullah, who lives in the region of Taliouine, will initiate us into the secrets of saffron. The origins of this age-old spice are still steeped in mystery. It's said to have many virtues, and it's worth its weight in gold, red gold. Julie is a nurse. She lives in a valley of the high Atlas, 5 hours of hard driving from the nearest village. This young Frenchwoman grapples with the harsh environment in order to care for the most remote communities. Ali and Lahope, guides in the Sahara, are old hands at crossing the desert. Following the traces of the mythical desert caravans, they are carrying on the tradition of the merchants that once traveled the south of Morocco.
What I like most about the desert are the long crossings. When you walk for weeks on end, you get a feeling of accomplishment at the end, a feeling that you haven't wasted your time.
The rugged range of Jebel Sirwa is a stunning link between the high Atlas and the Sahara, a land where you don't expect to find any trace of life. A voyage that only begins there where the trail ends. Long ago, people settled on these lunar plateaus to protect their goods from the pillaging tribes of the Sahara. Their villages blend in with the ochre landscape, as if they were trying to camouflage themselves, and their soil has become the cradle of a heaven-sent spice. They say that saffron was brought here in the 9th century by a tribe traveling from Arabia to Andalusia. Now, 600 years after being driven out of the Iberian Peninsula, their descendants have settled in this similar landscape.
Our great-grandparents were already growing saffron. It's part of us. We've been growing it for ages. We've all grown up with it. We've always grown it here in Taliouine. In other places, they're just starting to grow it. Saffron is an honored guest in our village here. A guest who arrives only in October.
Life in Tizgi, a village of small growers, follows the rhythm of saffron. For Abdullah and his family, this delicate plant is their whole life. It flowers for only 15 days a year, but from the picking all the way to the selling, it demands painstaking work. Everything about this crop has to be done by hand.
I think that's an interesting thing.
This one piece will make 52 layers.
Watch on mobile devices or the big screen. All for free. No subscription required.
صافي اكسلتي ارسلين في عينك صافي يدك انت تدو الخمسة يلا نتظل
We get up at 5 in the morning.
نفطر 5:15 5:30 سفر نتدو
We do our prayers. Then we have breakfast and we set out around 5:30. We get to our saffron fields at daybreak, and we have to finish our work before the sun is up completely.
It's 400 meters from the village to the plateau where the saffron fields are located. The steep trail often runs right alongside a sheer drop. One has to belong to this land so as not to go astray.
It's a rough road, but people are used to it. They have no choice. The road isn't paved, there are only trails here. It's a 45-minute walk uphill all the way. It's a very narrow trail, a really tough climb. The trail is washed out in spots because of the rain. We repair it every time, but it keeps getting damaged. There's a storm, and that's it. Just this year, we've repaired it 3 times.
Caught by the first rays of the sun as they climb, these intrepid saffron growers run a race against time every day during the harvest.
Even if we have to get up early, it's okay. We're happy because we're eager to see all the saffron that grew during the night. We can't wait to get out and pick our treasure. If our field is flourishing, we're happy. When the flower opens and is exposed to the sun, the filaments scatter and they're lost. Here you see in the morning the flower is closed. And that's why we come so early.
Every morning, the plateau abounds with new flowers that contain the precious strands. An ephemeral miracle, and the villagers are quite grateful for this boon.
This is a very good year, and we hope it'll be just as good for the money. We have rich soil here. Saffron grows well thanks to the cool climate. There's a lot of humidity, and that makes for very good saffron.
So far from the bustling cities, this is how life goes on for these Berbers, who are perfectly in harmony with the seasons of nature. The harvest follows the rhythm of the sun, and they have to stop picking as soon as the plateau starts to get warm. During the saffron season, every minute of work counts, and the whole family pitches in and helps. Even Saida, Abdullah's daughter, she attends school, but after class, she has to help her parents.
متى يحل وقت مسلسل أجابه أبوه اصبر حتى تنتهي النشرة الأخبار لا تحطم
من الزعفرانين صندوق الزعفرانين اها خدام معايا محمد لينا ايوه
انا بحفظ
Saffron is vital to us because it's our only resource. That and a few animals we raise. But saffron is our #1 source of income. It's gold. It's gold, thanks be to God. Even when you get good saffron, the price doesn't amount to much compared to the work we growers put into it. Your eyes get tired, your hands, your legs. When you stay seated like this 4 or 5 hours at a stretch, afterwards you can't walk, you can't move, you can't go out. It's really strenuous. You work night and day during the saffron harvest, right up till the end, and the work has to be done right away. You can't put things off. It has a very short lifespan. If you let it go for 2 days, it's lost. It's just 1 month's work a year, but it's the equivalent of 4.
After a month of intense activity, Abdullah is ready to set out on a long road trip.
Okay, here I go. May God protect us. Pray for me. And Ahmed, what should I bring back for you? Now calm down now. I have to go. And you, Saida, what do you want?
Clothes.
And what else?
Shoes.
Shoes, God willing. I'll bring you back a pair of shoes. Bye now. And Rashida, come kiss my hand. What should I bring back for you?
Bring back clothes for her, too.
Okay, Mama, I'm going. Take care of the children. I won't be gone long, God willing.
May God protect you.
This small saffron grower from Tizgi will sell his red gold not just in the local cooperatives and souks. He'll go well beyond the region of Sirwa. From village to village, wherever his encounters may lead him, Abdullah takes us along on the second phase of his work when he is a door-to-door salesman.
You know, it's hard. I have to make these long trips, but I love this life. You're free in this kind of work. You work for yourself, from your own home, and you're not afraid of anyone.
السلام عليكم. تاني وين؟ أقدر يلا
How long will you be gone this time?
Oh, I'll be away a month, month and a half. It depends. I'm going to Ouarzazate, Rala, Rashidia, Gulmin, Tinouir, Tinjdet. I'll sell my saffron in all those towns. People buy my saffron mainly in August, when you have all the weddings and celebrations. You know, we already knew that saffron has certain powers, and now it's been proven. So people are using it more and more. Now we know that it's really good for you.
The saffron harvested in the autumn is sold at different times throughout the year. It keeps for a long time and even improves with age. So when Abdullah needs money, he simply takes to the road.
أماني كوين كان الزعفران.
السلام عليكم.
السلام ورحمة الله.
بخير.
أماني بخير تهنا. لاباس كله.
ما تزنزات.
الزعفران الحر.
واخا يلا بشكرا.
يلا سيدي بسم الله. يلا.
Here we go.
Let's have a look. It's pure saffron?
Of course it is. Top quality. It comes from my village. My saffron comes straight from my fields. I don't buy it in the souk.
Okay, I'll take 5 grams.
Well, look at it. Just take a whiff.
Great.
It's good. Homegrown, good. Even though it's this year's, it's light and dry. Nothing more delicate than the scales.
The scales have to be precise.
Well, you see, they're accurate.
Good.
That'll do it?
Yes, that's perfect. That smells good.
You're right. Plus, it has medicinal properties. It's good for colds and teas. It's good for what ails you.
Yes, it's good for everything.
It's even good for death.
Oh, that I didn't know.
The rising demand for this spice has driven up the prices and at the same time raised Abdullah's hopes of improving his family's standard of living.
By selling my saffron, I can buy clothes for the children, some sugar, tea, and flour. That's how it is with saffron. Saffron is money. Take a look.
It's a beautiful color. How much is it?
€5 a gram.
I'll take 4 grams.
I used to sell it for €2, €3, €4 a gram, but the price has gone way up.
That's expensive.
No, it's not expensive. If you know what goes into it, it's not a lot.
This is good saffron. I use it a lot. I put it in my tea to give it an aroma, in the tajin, the couscous. I use it for my children. I make an herbal tea with it when they're sick.
Live in a city? It's never even crossed my mind. This is where my children are growing up. This is our life. We have to grow saffron and apples. That's how it is. It's the earth that feeds us.
At the end of this voyage, the simple freedom of these men of the earth is a natural gift that feeds its own dreams in the silence and immensity of the high plateaus of Sirwa. The Tessaout, this valley in the high Atlas Mountains, was for a long time unexplored. Even at the beginning of the 20th century, it was not known that this remote valley was inhabited. It seems as if the modern world had stopped on the threshold of these deep gorges. Julie, 24, is a nurse. She left her life in the city of Lyon in France to spend a year in Morocco. Along with Khadija, her interpreter, she takes care of the people of the region. A minibus has set out during the night on the valley's single track to come get the 2 women and take them to the site of their next consultation.
We work together. She teaches me about everyday life here. This headscarf is part of that. So, she's my guide. She's my interpreter and my guide.
They cover a vast area. Julie and Khadija work in 14 villages deep within the valley. Getting there is already an adventure in itself.
This track is very long. It stops in Magdaz. From there on, there's no more road. So we feel like we're in a completely isolated corner of the planet. It seems really far away from everything. And then we wonder, how's it possible that there are people actually living way out here? We think, my God, it's almost unnatural.
Mohammed has also come a long way to be taken care of. He's a farmer and lives in Ishbaken, about 20 kilometers away. It's a difficult trip, so he put it off as long as he possibly could. Now he has to do it.
It took him 4 hours on muleback to get here.
How long has he had these stomach pains?
It's been a month now.
Here you have the everyday gestures that would take 5 minutes in France, but here they take a lot longer because there are the constraints. We don't have all the equipment, there's no electricity. No doubt about it, it's a different way of life, a different rhythm.
Not much comes into this valley. Only a few of the local drivers are willing to tackle these rough roads. They are the only link between the first town and the inhabitants of the Tessaout Valley. This dispensary was opened in 2002 by a French association, Tassadour. Nurses come here to work for a year. They provide basic medical care and take part in public health programs.
We take care of the children, all the vaccinations, and the pediatric problems that might come up. Digestive infections, ear, nose, and throat, general medicine. And there's the family planning programs and a lot of pregnancy care and emergency care. That happens a lot. And we're also a presence for them. We've realized that the commitment and values are much more important here than the acts themselves. So just being here with them reassures them. It means a lot to them. Time is quite elastic here, so you let yourself go with it because you don't have a choice. It's the rhythm here, and you learn to live with it. There's no way to be stressed because that's just how it is. You learn to make do with what you have.
The most important thing in Tessaout is the Wadi, this stream of the same name. It not only irrigates the crops, but it also serves as a means of transportation.
It's a beautiful valley, but it's hard living here in the winter, especially when it snows. But in the spring, the water from the melting snow is very useful. Sometimes the river overflows, and that damages the crops. But we accept that because here, like everywhere else in the world, water is essential, and we respect water and all living things. The Tissaout is a magnificent region. It has a lot of water. We lead very simple lives, but the people here are happy. I don't like towns too much. Too much noise, hustle and bustle, cars everywhere. It's not for me. If they would improve the roads here, that would really make our lives better.
We go along with Julie and Khadija on the path to Taslint, 10 kilometers down from the dispensary, where they have to do some vaccinations. Most of the time, the two women make the trip on foot, conditions permitting.
We can't really make long-term projects because we never know what's going to happen. If we'll be able to make it back, if the road will be blocked, if it's going to rain, if the river's going to flood. So we have to live in the present moment, and that gives you a serenity. Their culture is very strong. Their family ties as well. The family is very important. They like living here. They don't want to leave. And from my experience, I can say, yes, these people like it here in their valley, and they want to stay.
صافي سموت تخيل مثل elle a mal au dos, elle a fait un faux mouvement.
Life is hard here. The people, the women have to work in the fields. It's hard. And yet, there's a certain aura about them, and they're always ready to laugh. You want to feel sorry for them because we couldn't imagine living our whole life here. But in fact, the people are very happy here. I adapted to life here pretty quickly. I think that later, when I go back, it will be difficult to adjust. And yet I know full well that I'm a foreigner here, that I'm just here for a certain time to give what I can, live as fully as I can here, but that this is not my home. So it's good that it all has a beginning and an end.
Julie has surely found here the essence of what drew her to this profession. An authentic bond with these men and women whose everyday life is so different from ours. Now we head south towards even wider horizons. Towards a land where the voyager loses himself in both space and time. A harsh land where the buffeting winds sculpt the landscape and the pitiless sun beats down on man and beasts. Here we're on the outskirts of the Sahara, halfway between the plains of Tafilalet and the Dra Valley. This region is the home of a myth, the myth of the great caravans. Laden with gold, salt, and other riches, they would ply the routes between Morocco, Niger, Sudan, and Mauritania. The caravans made the fortunes of men and cities, and thus created vital links between these countries. And now, what remains of them is a romantic image that lingers in our memories, and that of these two sons of the desert. Ali and Leho are guides in the Sahara. They are old hands at long crossings with their camels. 1.5 months, sometimes 2, completely on their own, cut off from the outside world. The two men have been traveling for several days now. They're taking their caravan over an old trail that leads to Timbuktu.
We're going to explore a trail that we've never taken before with the help of God. Le'o and I have been desert guides for about 20 years. We have experience and we set out looking for new routes. We're trying to find wells. If we can find water, we'll be able to open this new route to tourists.
The caravans used to transport dates, barley. There were no cars. It was done by camel. In the old days, they would carry a little gold and money that they would hide. It was all carried by caravan.
They also carried salt.
Right, and salt too. They'd carried henna. They used to carry a lot of henna. Now, there are no more caravans. That's all finished.
No compass, no GPS. They make their way to the Dra Valley by reading the signs of the earth. For several centuries, the columns of camels furrowed these fields of stone, but the traces of their passage are beginning to fade.
هات بعدات وريد دادي كوبري الله اعلم خصمك ها لا ورني ورتسين ها ورنشكي ورني مرينا يعني غا
We'll be right back. We're going to try to find the trail. Keep an eye on the camels.
They made this pile of stones back in the old days. They're all over the Nidau region, all the way to Sakia La Hamra, and even down to the south of Morocco. We're on the right track. It's the trail that leads to the Dra Valley. This is a very old trail. These piles of stones, these cairns, are about 2,000 years old. They mark the trail to Tantan, Saka, La Hamra, and even into Mauritania.
الحمد لله ربي يلا ربي ويا العفون سنيديرا يا ماضري ونغول يا معذور الله ربي الله ربي يلا ربي ويا العفون سنيديرا
غربي
دينا
نفصليش مني دا سنيش
ما برين سياسة يمكننا
فرد دياس وتاي اي خلاد وتاي تسفر ومان هو يزدي زند الجوات خرطني تتف زند الجو تقريبا كتم دين ما يمكنش مرات حلا ولكن بزاف الصحراء
I like the city from time to time, but it's in the desert where I really feel alive. I feel part of a whole. I really feel my soul, I'm at one with nature, and I feel close to God. I feel a presence in this vast wilderness, in the starry sky, the moon. Out here, my thoughts become focused on life's essentials, the family, and especially my children. I feel at peace. The desert, it calms the soul and the mind.
After more than 10 days of traveling, our supply of water is almost finished. It's vital for both the men and the animals to find a well. Wells used to dot the length of the caravan route every 20 to 30 kilometers, but some have dried up and others have been forgotten.
They can go 15 days without water, and now it's only been a week. When water is available and they drink as much as they want, they can hold out for 15 days. And they'll drink about 40 liters of water now.
What I like most about the desert are the long crossings. When you walk for weeks on end, you get a feeling of accomplishment at the end, a feeling that you haven't wasted your time.
These important commercial routes once gave rise to flourishing cities in the middle of the desert. That golden age is now past, but some cities like Tanzania are still a stopover for these modern-day caravans. Ali and Laho take us to a traditional caravanserai to meet Baba Raglil, guardian of the past.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام
ضيف الله.
ورحمة الله.
السلام عليكم.
على سلامتكم. على سلامتكم. انتم بخير الحمد لله على سلامتكم.
كي داير بخير.
على سلامتكم مرحبا بكل فرح.
جينا بواحد حنايا جينا بواحد.
We've come a long way with our caravan from Umjran, and we'd like to spend the night here in Tamgrut.
مرحبا بكم بكل فرح.
May come in, welcome.
مرحبا بكم.
بارك الله فيك. تفضل معنا سيدي.
He is a descendant of a caravaneer. He's also the living memory of this city. Tamgrut is home to a treasure, a library of thousands of books collected thanks to one man, a theologian named Mohammed ben Nasser. He used the caravans to import a store of knowledge here and make this city a center of learning for scholars of the time.
It was around 1000-something Vijira, that is, the 17th century for Europe. Mohammed bin Nasser taught theology, the Quran, and the sciences in Tamgrut to more than 1,400 students. He brought books on philosophy, grammar, medicine, astrology, Berber, Turkish, and Arabic. Our library's oldest book dates back to the year 483 of the Hijra, 1063 of your calendar. It comes from Cordoba and Andalusia. These works were written by scholars from all different countries. And Sidi Mohammed bin Nasser wanted all these books to be available to everyone, not only the elite. They used to say, may God make our country a land of religion, of culture, and a haven of peace for the poor and for the needy.
Ali and Laho know that to open the trail once they get past Tamgroot, the caravan is going to have to face a formidable obstacle: these high cliffs. The trail exists. Animals used to take it frequently, but Ali and Laho don't know exactly where it is.
بريد سميتو لا تبخ الشيء لا ضر هنكرا الحديد حاس السلام عليكم.
Hi there. Are you from around here?
Yes, I am.
انت من هنايا.
Do you know the trails around here?
Yes.
بخير الحمد لله. يا ربي هات النران دوس.
We'd like to go to Tizi and Toflet. I think that we're on the right path, but we're not sure. Maybe you could show us which way it is, please?
Sure, I can help you out.
Muadi, the nomad, agrees to join the expedition. He goes off to leave his motorcycle at his encampment and will hook up with the caravan a bit further along the way.
When you set out, your goal is to arrive at your destination, whatever the cost. It gets pretty tricky sometimes, but we've decided to revive the trails of our ancestors. In spite of the heat and the difficulties, I won't give up. Otherwise, that would be the end of everything. A whole world would disappear. We have to resist in order to preserve our heritage. This is our history, and we have to keep it alive for our children and future generations, God willing. Muadi, did you know the people that used to live here?
Yes. It was the Balu family that used to live here. They didn't have any blankets. They'd just cover up with a bit of ragged cloth and they'd eat a bit of bran bread. And Malu, she'd take shelter up there. That's where they'd keep the dromedaries. And a little further up is where he would stay, off by himself, and eat on his own.
غير زعما تيسيروا صعبة.
مرة والحو غير خطر.
اسكت.
Look, a jackal did this.
وشنا.
Did you see?
أمرت لي تناضغيت.
نظرنا شنين.
وشنا. الني. أمرت لي تزقوا يد سمنة 60.
To catch the jackal, they bury a trap here. And then, when the jackal digs it, he gets caught.
Hey, Muadi, which trail do we take?
The one on the right. Ali, please go check with him. I'm telling you, it's okay. No, Ali's going to check it out with you.
We're not going any further until we see what the trail looks like.
Go all the way to the end to check. You can make it through. Other caravans have come through before us with their donkeys and dromedaries.
Here, we're coming into a really tricky passage. Muadi knows the trail well. He says if we don't take it, we'll have to make a long detour all the way around. We'll have to tighten up the loads. Each one leads his dromedary, and we'll trust in God. But still, it's extremely rocky.
امزود علي حاول تغفت صيدا هات ميجور زيرنا واد السويد شوف
ان شاء الله اليوم انا ان شاء الله
The hard thing in the desert is having the responsibility of the caravan when you're reopening a poorly marked trail. When there's a storm, bad weather, sandstorms, and when you're at the head of the caravan leading people and animals, it's not easy. You really have to back each other up in all situations. We may know the region very well, but even so, we always have to be very alert. Sometimes it's hard, but I wouldn't change my life for anything in the world.
مودي والمهم كعون ربيع مودي
سماع الحب
ان
شاء الله يا رب ان شاء الله ان شاء الله
ارض رياض ان شاء الله
ان شاء الله استمر ان شاء الله عليه ان شاء الله مع السلامه
فضلنا كان اللي نزيت يزيدنا مع تلت كينا تولي زيت الله يرحم الوالد
شو انت تنطرتيني
ان
شاء الله ودي
بارك الله فيك
الله يرحم والدين الله يعاون
بسلام الله يعاون
الله يعاون ان شاء الله
طريق السلام طريق السلامه الله يعاون
وبالسلامه
Take to the road, make the journey, strike out to discover new lands, new hopes, and everything else will be granted to you. The long story of the caravans continues in this boundless landscape, heading towards new horizons. Tanzania, land of wild animals, Kilimanjaro, and Zanzibar. Javed the photographer will take us to discover his island, Zanzibar. In this Tanzanian archipelago that combines the colors of Africa and the Orient, music and the heady fragrance of spices blend into the sea. Tanzania is also a great jungle book. Pascal the guide will take us on a trip through a wild world that is like something from the dawn of humanity. Kilimanjaro, the highest summit in Africa, in the middle of the land of the Washaga people. Simon the marathon runner holds the record for the ascent and descent of Kilimanjaro. This mountain is his whole life.
Today, we benefit greatly of this mountain. This is not only the Wachaga people, this is a treasure for my country.
We approach the eastern coast of Africa by the Indian Ocean. Zanzibar, a mythical name, an archipelago of nearly 75 islands that was united to nearby Tanzania in the 1960s. Only some 15 of the islands are inhabited. Zanzibar is an important port of call on sea routes. The main island is called Unguja. For a long time, it had a reputation as an important and flourishing trading post, a port from which the famous dhows set sail for far-off destinations. Javed is a photographer. We could even say he is the photographer of Zanzibar. His family came from India and settled here more than a century ago. For the last 15 years or so, Javed has been photographing life on the archipelago. He now has a collection of more than 50,000 photos. To show his work, Javed started his own publishing house and bookshop in Stone Town, the main town on the island. He publishes on the average 3 books of photos a year. These books, dealing with the history and culture of his country, have been translated into many languages. This may sound like a success story, but it was necessity, not choice, that led Javed down this path. After repeated refusals of his work, he decided to take his future into his own hands.
When I did my photography in UK, I had approached almost all the publishers in Europe and says, look, I've just finished and I'm going to Zanzibar and I want to do a book on Zanzibar. Everyone said, sorry, there's no market for Zanzibar. There's no commercial market. Zanzibar is too small. I mean, we do books where it would sell millions or at least 5,000, 10,000. I had approached every big publishers. I'm talking about 93, 92, 94. Everyone said Zanzibar is not our market. So I said, well, if no one else wants to do it, I'm going to do it.
Javed also launched a regular magazine on life in Zanzibar. He gets to see local life from a privileged point of view, so he invited us to come along with him as he works. It's a rather eclectic program, but fascinating to watch.
Okay, that's the one which is going to go into that. Okay, so you're still following it up, eh? All right, okay.
This one morning, Javed started out by looking up into the air. He wanted to photograph the first colors of what to us look like simple buds.
This is the king crop of Zanzibar. Zanzibar has always depended on cloves. During 60s and 70s, Zanzibar used to earn export earnings on this. However, now tourism is taking more, bringing more revenue in terms of cloves. Clove trees, when it's in season, you can smell cloves. Everywhere you go, you smell cloves, you see cloves. All the village people, everyone, they're working on the cloves. In the evening, they come and take all the cloves out from the tree. Next day, they put it on the floor and they dry it. So it takes 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. This is Zanzibar nutmeg and mace. And in Zanzibar, they make the powder of this. And for the wedding night, they always give it to bride. So she gets a bit of a high. And this is the secret of Zanzibar wedding. If there's no nutmeg and mace, there's no wedding in Zanzibar. Yes, smell of Zanzibar. The smell of Zanzibar wedding.
The name Zanzibar is, of course, closely associated with the spice trade. Cardamom, pepper, nutmeg, cinnamon, cumin, cloves, all these spices contributed to the wealth and reputation of this island. Many merchants settled here, bringing with them their cultures and their traditions. Zanzibar, a blend of colors, of smells, but also of ethnic groups and civilizations. But the history of Zanzibar also has its somber side. For a long time, the archipelago's fortune was also built on the slave trade. Up to 50,000 human beings passed through the docks of Stone Town every year. They were sold here before being transported to other countries. Even after slavery was abolished, the traffic continued in clandestine places here, and the slave trade went on until after the end of the First World War.
عالمنا الدورة عالمنا الدورة عالمنا الدورة عالمنا الدورة.
This woman is undoubtedly one of the last survivors of that tragic era. Biki Dude is 98 today, or 105. She doesn't really know herself. But Biki Dude is not just the memory of a bygone age. She is above all a voice, a respected, even admired voice in Zanzibar. Javed has just finished a book about her, and like any artist, she signs her name to it, written in Arabic. It's the only word she knows how to write, the only word she knows how to read.
Nobody ever taught me how to sing. I started when I was 10 and have been singing ever since. That's right. I learned how to sing in the Arab dhows. Do I still sing? Of course I do. How would I eat if I didn't sing? I'd live on thin air? You're kidding.
Then Javed takes us to see, and more importantly to hear, an all-female orchestra. Women who take up music and play under a man's direction, this may sound normal, but here it's a great step forward. In this country with its double Arabic-African influence, women's freedom is not always encouraged. The creation of this musical ensemble is a first that Javed didn't want to miss.
You know, there are some people who do not allow their children or their daughters or their wives to perform with men, you know, men and women group. But they allow them to have to participate in women groups. So I think it's going to be an interesting, very interesting, to bring back these women groups whereby you find, because there are women who are very talented.
Well, these women started to play the music almost 2.5 months, not years. Nobody can believe about this.
And it will be for Zanzibar a new thing. And usually one starts, others start complaining, say, why women? But then later, all of them support. This is how life is.
The sound of the Tarab music with its multiple influences is still ringing in our ears, and already Javed is sweeping us off to another destination, Uzi Island. On this rather forgotten island, the inhabitants are somewhat wary of our approach and tend to avoid us. At first. The reason that Javed has come here is simple. He wants to photograph the mangrove forest, which after a period of regression has once again started to grow. These young shoots he is photographing are a true symbol of regeneration.
Very nice. This mangrove is lost. I think it's just a new life has just grown over here. Very interesting. I like it.
Coming around a bend in the mangrove, we're greeted by one of the locals. In the beginning, Fazin was self-appointed guardian of the mangrove, but now the authorities have made his position official. He looks after the proper development of this fragile environment that is indispensable to the balance between so many species.
In Zanzibar, only now 2 villages, big mangrove like this. Here Uzi and we call it Chwaka.
Chwaka, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So here we just we prepared or we protect. Any person don't come to cut it.
When they cut the mangroves, what do they use the mangroves
They use it for charcoals.
Okay.
For charcoals only.
Only charcoals.
And charcoals, and if you want to go now to build a house, you can just for put a tin on for the house.
Boriti.
Yes.
Okay. So Sasabi, in Uzi Island, you do not allow them to cut.
Yes, that is. If you cut this, we're gonna at the police station, and police come and mangrove is because mangrove to protect to say the bath. The fish is small, big fish come inside and bath here.
So all the big fish, they come here.
Yes.
And they give birth to babies.
Yes.
And they live here.
Yes.
Before they go out.
Yes. When the high tide, they move.
Okay. So if we cut the mangroves, we have no fish.
Yes, no fish.
If there's no fish, no fishermen.
Yeah, no fishermen.
And that means we're all in trouble.
Yes.
Which is same species?
This same type. This mucho. This and this.
So there are 6 species you said, eh?
Five types of mangroves.
Oh, found on Uzi Island.
This is the seed of this type.
Okay.
Okay. So when you want to, they remove, they go like this. And this become how to grow. It grow itself. Don't come person to grow. It grow with itself. Yes.
But preserving the mangrove forest without maintaining the activities of the population is pointless. So for all parties to live in harmony, they have to try to develop alternative small-scale activities.
So this project of honey bee, how to prepare the honey. So we call this project of special for ladies of the village to prepare to take honey, and honey then is sold.
How many do you have this now? How
This
many
approximately more than 20 those inside. So this called very nice honey for flowers of mangroves. Okay. But they normally they settle 3 months or 4th month they come to take off.
Back on the main island of Unguja, Javed, always on the move, takes us to Nungwi, the boat builders' village. This is where the famous boats are built, the dhows, that made the seafaring reputation of Zanzibar. Today, Javed has come to see the boat he is having built. He plans to sail through the whole archipelago, exploring the lesser-known nooks and crannies of the different islands, and capturing the light and the landscapes he feels so strongly about.
The people of Nungwi have been building the dhows for almost years, centuries. And this is the very famous place. All the master dhow men from Nungwi. And Nungwi is renowned for making dhows for a lot of... and the traditions are passed from father to son, father to son. This is how people have learned. So basically, Nungwi is the dhow capital of the world, I would say. I would say dhow capital of Zanzibar. And I think that's the way it is. It takes about 3 months to make a boat, and it involves a lot of people. So you're looking at about 7, 8 people working on for 3 months by the time the boat is finished. So it's a long, tedious work, and everything is done by hand. It's a labor of love.
Without blueprints, using only the eye's precision and a great deal of skill, these men build vessels that can face the whims and tantrums of the Indian Ocean and link the islands of the archipelago. Even if times have changed and Zanzibar has lost its prestige and its fame, Javed still looks upon these islands with the eyes of his passion and continues to capture with his cameras all the natural and human beauty of this land that he loves. Pascal is a retired professor of natural history.
Animals, animals, animals everywhere.
This nature lover knows how to read and interpret the local wildlife like an open book. At present, he volunteers his time to do observation missions for Tanzania's national parks. Discovering with him the Tarangire National Park, one of the country's lesser-known parks, is quite a treat, spiced up by his enthusiasm for this incredible wildlife refuge, one of the planet's privileged sanctuaries. Pascal got a special permission to leave the main trails to get a closer look at the wildlife. For Pascal, just being in the presence of the animals and observing them is an endless source of wonder.
I love nature, I love animals, I love the natural environment. I grew up as a young boy in the village, and we used to do a bit of hunting, and so I got used to wild animals, to birds, to plants and vegetation and natural environment. And then later on, as I grew up, I was trained as a naturalist and a wildlife manager.
The Tarangire Park contains the highest population density of elephants in the world. They are attracted to a marshy zone here and to the Tarangire River, a permanent source of water that gave its name to the park. This zone, the swamp as it is called here, attracts more than elephants. A multitude of species share this space, and large colonies of migratory birds come to winter here every year. Among all the species that live here, Pascal has a particular fondness for the elephants. He can spend hours observing their behavior and their movements.
You know, they walk in a kind of an extended line. If you look at it, you'll see that you have the mothers, leading the way, and then they have the babies in between, and then you have some behind. Just make sure that the babies are well protected, and they're coming to graze now in the swamp, and to drink too.
Here, the animals live together and share their territory, where each one has its own niche. The animals roam free, and the humans stay in their four-wheel drive vehicles. There is real danger. This is not a zoo. The natural behavior of the animals must not be disturbed.
The trunk has so many functions. For breathing, for drinking, it sucks in water, pumps it in the mouth. Yeah, and for smelling, for fighting, for love making, caressing, it uses the same trunk. Yeah. When they're born, they weigh about 100 to 120 kilograms. They grow very quickly when they're young, and then when they start getting to the age of 5, 6, they grow down slowly.
After their migration to different watering holes, the elephants regroup into smaller family units. The young in training are learning to use their trunks like a baby its thumb. Elephants are very protective animals. You're best off listening to Pascal's advice and not get too close to them.
Yeah, that is Tarangire Hill.
End of the first day of our special elephant safari. But on the way back, nature treats us to yet another wonderful sight. Like at the beginning of time, animals still live here with their own rules in total harmony. The next day, Pascal tracks down a herd of buffalo. All of a sudden, we are the ones being observed. Buffalo are one of the big five. That is the 5 most dangerous species of African wildlife.
These are social animals that live in a big herd. They are fairly dangerous. They have killed a lot of hunters who thought they are just like cows, but in fact they are not. They are very cruel, and if you come very close to their babies. These animals, there are times when they lose their temper. For example, if they've been wounded by a bullet and they are solitary, they are hiding somewhere, don't get very close to them. When they're having their afternoon siesta or just a nap, they are resting and they are solitary, don't disturb them. If you do, they can be very wild. These are animals that can change their moods, like sometimes women can change moods too.
The proximity of water in the Tarangire attracts a large number of animals, and sometimes a big cat perched in a tree watches its prey with a lazy, unconcerned eye. Without Pascal's trained eye, we certainly wouldn't have spotted this leopard hidden up in the branches. He appears almost shy, but all his senses are alert. Then suddenly he feels that his territory is being invaded.
I enjoy just being in the wild. It is interesting to visit, to see these animals in their natural environment. They have different behaviors, different activities that they do, and it gives me a lot of spiritual satisfaction and recreation to some extent. And so I really enjoy. I don't mind being out in the bush for 2 months. I'm just very happy.
Somewhat apart from other species in the Tarangire Park, large groups of lions enjoy this vast hunting ground, abounding in easy-to-catch prey.
Lions are very common here in Tarangire, and as you can see in this river, where they've just killed a fresh zebra, and they love the zebra meat. The females are quick and fast, and they normally hunt as a team. So here, 6 of them have managed to hunt this zebra, and they are now feeding on it. Yeah, look over there.
A hunt begins before our very eyes. But this time, the zebra is too fast.
Usually these animals, although they are social, but when it comes to table manners, I think they have the poorest of it. Because even if there's plenty of food here, they still scramble for food. And sometimes, even if there are cubs here, they will eat first and the cubs will eat later.
During the lion's lunch hour, some unexpected visitors burst in on the scene. A strange vehicle with a rake antenna, an odd tool to bring to the feline's feast. Quick introductions are made, and we learn that these people are scientists who are tracking and counting the different prides of lions.
Yeah, we have about 6 radio collars that help us to follow the population trend, and also we collect range use pattern. We're estimating that the ecosystem has about 400 to 500 lions, the entire ecosystem, Tarangire and the surrounding areas. They're decreasing actually because of the human-lion conflicts, the retaliatory killing from the pastoralists surrounding Tarangire National Park, and also the hunting activities.
Others are also waiting for their share of the food. The vultures are the park's garbage disposal crew.
These are carrion eaters. And the reason why they're here is because they have spotted these lions eating this zebra meat here. So they're hanging around, just waiting for the lions to go so that they can come close and feed on the leftovers. These birds are so important in the ecosystem because, they're the ones who cleans up everything. Otherwise, the whole area would have been smelling, awfully.
Pascal is curious about everything. He knows this territory like the back of his hand, and he wanted to show us another animal. An animal one encounters sometimes here, a strange, even improbable creation of nature.
That is one of the largest monitor lizard around here, which has a total length of about 2.5 meters. And they are here because they feed, there is enough food for them. They feed on catfish. There are a lot of catfish in this swamp. Yeah, the lizard is there. It was trying to climb a tree, I think, to go and check if it can get some eggs of some birds, because it also feeds on eggs. Those are what we call Maasai giraffe. And there are quite many in Tarangire. There are quite many, moving around and feeding on the acacia leaves. They are kind of prehistoric animals that still exist on Earth today. They don't have many predators because of they've got very powerful eyesight, and they are fairly big. Because of their big size, the lions are the only predator that can kill, the giraffe. And they wait until when they are drinking and they are bending their neck, then it is easy for them to ambush.
For Pascal, contemplating this sanctuary of nature means more than simply observing the animals. It evokes a particular train of thought.
I'm never bored with seeing these animals. I love coming to see these animals because they are quite interesting. They are very refreshing. They are beautiful to see. And every time I come here, it keeps my mind fairly cool. And so I have what you call peace of mind, when I'm out. And that makes life really good.
White Mountain, mountain of splendor, house of God. For the peoples of the Kilimanjaro, Africa's highest mountain has different names, different faces. Mount Kibo, almost 6,000 meters high, is the highest of the 3 peaks that make up Kilimanjaro. It is the true symbol of the whole mountain. Simon Mtui is a child of the Washaga tribe, and this mountain has given him everything. He was 16 years old when he first climbed to the summit of Kilimanjaro, his mountain.
This is a beautiful mountain. It has been my livelihood for 20 plus years of climbing this mountain and making my progress of life. It remains symbolic for Wachaga. It's a hidden place. It's a mountain of God. And when you get a punishment there from the cold, you have to believe it's a mountain that nothing exists there.
For the Washaga, this place is home to the spirits and their god Rua, who can bring the rains and ward off bad weather. In funeral ceremonies, the dead are buried facing Mount Kibo. And yet, according to their beliefs, this is not the original cradle of the Washaga people.
On the other side of the mountain, more the southeast, there's a small mountain called as the Kifunika. This Kifunika is a mountain where the Chaga people believe that's where the origins of Wachaga. We go there from our worship, and this mountain has so many places where Wachaga people do their sacrifice.
But now a persistent question dogs the mind of Simon and the other Washaga. What is the future of Mount Kibo and its glacier? Scientists believe that the glacier will have completely disappeared sometime between 2020 and 2025.
When I was a child, at the age of 16, when I summited the mountain the first time, basically the glacier were way down halfway the mountain. And this glacier now, they are not longer existing. You can just see little patch of the glaciers there, but it is almost gone. We need more scientific proof to understanding what is really going on this mountain. I feel sad. I feel like this is something that I would like my son or my children to come and see these amazing glaciers. And when I visualize what I've seen, when I see what I saw on the past, I feel imbalance. I feel like something is missing.
Simon, a native son of this land, is an enthusiastic runner, or more precisely, he's a professional marathon man. In 2006, he did the ascent and descent of Kilimanjaro in the amazing time of 9 hours and 21 minutes. Every year, Simon takes part in a number of international events, especially in different states in North America, where he is ranked among the best in endurance runs and ultramarathons. Simon trains almost every day here in the hills around Kilimanjaro, right where he was born. This tiny woman with the heavy load on her head is Simon's mother. She's 68. Like all the Washaga, she works every day on the family farm where they raise livestock. She's somewhat less enthusiastic about her son's activity.
You say too much running. I say too much running it's okay but in the mountain now come the money. He say it's not a very good place to go. He say Kifoni is like a death zone. It's not a very good place to go.
Here in the family hut is where Simon was born, along with his 9 brothers and sisters. His family is always very surprised each time they see him returning home from the United States. But for Simon, the pull of his mountain is stronger than anything else.
I'm very happy here to live my life in the village. And I go every year for running, and I come back here. And my mother, she was very happy when I say to her, I go to America, and I come back. And I go and come back. So even with my first time attempting to get a visa, it was very difficult because, for example, in American embassy, they have to ask you this question, what will make you to come back home? I say to them, my family. They say, what are you saying? I say, it's my family. So I come back for this. There's a good things on this country. Everything is possible here, and much easier than in US. You work and you pay the bills. You work, you pay the bills. Of course, you do the same here, but it's a different mentality.
Simon's father, a giant almost 2 meters tall. He's 85 and in fine health. He too still continues looking after his farm. But his real passion is raising short-legged chickens, as he calls them. They lay the best eggs in the village, or so he claims.
See, this is the mother. All the chicken with the short legs. It's a freedom. I feel like there's nothing after this. My heart, my body, I feel fresh after run. I like this every day. I do it.
Simon's garden is his pride and joy. He grows his own vegetables, 100% organic. No fertilizer, no chemicals. He uses only his own compost.
My father, he didn't know how to read or to write. So he teaches us how to grow maize, how to grow coffee, how to work hard. And I think I take this forward from my grandfather to my father. And today I want my son to enjoy the same thing.
Like all the Washaga, who are excellent farmers, he grows taro, bananas, rhubarb, some flowers, and his own coffee, 600 to 800 kilos a year.
If I wish to do more commercial, I will spray a chemical, but I don't do it. It's just let the nature live itself.
And that's not all he has to be proud of. Simon grows what are very exotic fruits for this region, strawberries, that he serves up to the travelers in his rural guest house that he has set up. The guests are mostly Americans.
I think there is a reason for the clients to come to the village. There's a reason for the clients to come to enjoy the culture, to talk to the people, to see the people of Wachaga. And not only to be with them on the mountain, also to learn how their livelihood, besides going on the mountain, besides going on the safari. So I make sure the clients come here, they get the richness of this country.
When he started to get a reputation in the United States, thanks to the marathons and endurance runs, Simon developed a network of relations. He receives his clients, Kilimanjaro climbing enthusiasts, in his rural guest house.
I want to make sure that everyone is aware of what you're going to go through. The climb is not a joke. It's not a walkabout. It's a mountain that you're going to climb. So you have to be very aware of what is going to go on with yourself. We know for sure the summit is not what brought you here. This is experience. We want you to have a full of experience, experience that you wish to come here for.
I actually heard about Simon when I was on the top of a mountain in Colorado. Someone who knew Simon from the distance running told me about him and wrote down the website, and that's how I found it. I discovered about 3 years ago that I really liked climbing mountains, and I'm kind of good at it, and so I wanted to come here and climb Kilimanjaro and see Africa as well.
You need to make sure you're drinking, you're eating enough. You need to make sure you're sleeping enough. You need to make sure you're warm enough. And when you arrive to the camp today, they're going to measure the vital sign again. What they're looking for is your O2 sat, your oxygen saturation, how much oxygen you carry in your body. Secondly, they're looking your heart rate.
There are several places I wanted to see in the world. I wanted to see Patagonia in South America and see Machu Picchu in Peru. But this has always been, I think, part of that dream is Africa and Kilimanjaro, as well as all the land around it.
And of course, we like you to have that dream to be on the top of Africa, the highest peak of Africa. We would like to be part of you to make sure, side to side, you're going to get that dreams. For us here today, for me and my staff and the farm, this is our dream have come true. And we hope that by the end of the day, your dreams is going to come true.
Simon, constantly on the lookout for new ideas to promote the region, has developed an ecotourism activity, mountain biking around Kilimanjaro. His first two customers, Peter and Tom, are two Americans working for local NGOs. The complete tour of the mountain, more than 200 kilometers, will take about a week of sometimes difficult cycling. But Simon also wants his guests to discover the region and appreciate local traditions and culture. Simon, the son of Washaga peasants, is a man with deep roots in his native land. But he's also a man of his times and always has his cell phone in his hand, no matter where he goes. He's in daily contact with the company he created in Moshi, 40 kilometers from his farm. Several times a week, he goes to his office, which is housed in 3 recycled containers. With the help of a secretary and an assistant, he plans the schedules for his organization, which can, when there are expeditions on, employ up to 30 people a day, including guides and porters. It took 4 days for Simon and his teammates to get to the west side of Kilimanjaro. Herds of large animals migrate through this region, which is more sparsely populated and arid than the eastern part. Most often, they're fleeing the droughts on the nearby Kenyan plateaus. The mountain bike trek runs between Kilimanjaro and Mount Meru, the second highest peak in Africa. With the expeditions to the top of Kilimanjaro and his new mountain bike trek, Simon's activity is progressing smoothly. With respect for the surrounding environment and with his own convictions, Simon has succeeded in creating his niche by combining a land of traditions where he grew up and the new challenges of a world that's evolving quickly, very quickly. But perhaps what sums up Simon best of all is the attachment and the deep respect he feels for his mountain.
This mountain supplies not only the climate, not only the glaciers, the water, the good weather around this mountain. And to today, we benefit greatly of this mountain. This is not only the Wachaga people, this is a treasure for my country.
Since his first climb as a porter at the age of 16, Simon has been working on making his dreams come true, taking his destiny into his own hands. In his own way, he has become a sort of symbol of Africa on the move, open to the curiosity of the world. Madagascar. Located in the Indian Ocean and one of the world's largest islands, it is a land of stories and legends. It's also known as the Red Island because of the color of the earth. You'll be meeting Elise, a botany student. She has a fascination for her country's national tree, the baobab. The arid, hard-to-get-to territory in the south is where she carries out her research. Soloda is a Vezo, a group of nomadic coastal inhabitants. His village on a sandy spit of land jutting into the Mozambique Channel is completely isolated. He spent a few years away from his family, but his love of the sea drew him back. Gilles, a Frenchman, has been here for more than 20 years. An ardent nature lover, he has made his home in the foothills of the island's most beautiful mountains and has decided to reforest the valley where he lives.
Jean Giono's book, The Man Who Planted Trees, really impressed me. I'd like these people to remember me as the man who planted trees.
Madagascar is a vast territory in the Indian Ocean off the southern coast of Africa. This land of beliefs and mystery, the fifth largest island on Earth, offers a great diversity of landscapes and cultures. A trip to Madagascar is always spiced with adventure. There are very few roads off the central highlands to the northern forests and into the arid plains of the south. Discovering Madagascar means, above all, slowing down, adapting to island time. The National Highway 7 is the only route into the south. Elise and Tantel are both botany students doing research. They're off on a long trip to the Land of Thorns, the vast region in the southernmost part of the island.
We cover hundreds, even thousands of kilometers to get there. At least we're doing it in a bush taxi this time. Sometimes we travel by ox cart or even by boat. It's an adventure every time.
Elise is doing her doctoral thesis on a tree that is recognizable at a glance, but which in fact is not very well known, the baobab. The Malagasy here call it the Renala, meaning mother of the forest. The baobab is the object of many traditional beliefs about mother and child. Its trunk is straight and massive, its bark very smooth, and it has a tender heart. The baobab is the symbol of fertility. The baobab really has an odd look, and in fact they often say that it was planted upside down, as if its branches were trying to take root in the sky. There's a legend that says, in the final days of creation, the gods realized that they had forgotten to plant the baobabs, so they just tossed them down from the heavens. The two young botanists still have hundreds of kilometers to cover. They are looking for flowering baobabs, for the research is focused on the reproductive cycle of a particular species found only in the southern part of the island. Toliara, the major city of southern Madagascar. Elise and Tantel still have a ways to go. They left the capital 2 days ago and have crossed half the vast island with a single goal in mind: to find a baobab that is just about to flower.
We think there's a sort of hybridization going on in the baobabs. So I'm going to try and find out just how this hybridization works.
Of the world's 8 known species of baobabs, this large island is home to 7, and 6 of those are endemic to the island. Some of them are hybrids, and Élysée is seeking to solve this enigma. After the bush taxi, they continue their trip south with a zebu cart into the Mahafali Plateau, a poor, arid region.
Here we go, just what we need.
The mystery surrounding the baobab is the mystery of the reproduction of all living beings, of the fragile balance of nature, the life cycle of flowers, pollen, and insects. The baobab flower, an ephemeral bloom, resembles a wild orchid. It only blossoms once in the tree's lifetime for a few days, and only during the hot summer nights. Tser and Dilf, 2 climbers specialized in trees, will be helping Élysée carry out her observations. Now it's Élysée's turn to tackle the baobab. She has spotted flower buds that might bloom at nightfall about 15 meters up in the tree.
The very first time I climbed a baobab, I felt right away that I was in my element. I was at home in the tree. I felt good climbing. I really felt good with everything having to do with the life of the baobab. And maybe I feel I was destined to study them after such an experience.
Look, the cord and the knots have to be taut all the time. And as you go up, this is how you feed yourself slack, okay?
Élysée, acrobat and botanist, now has to get familiar with her treetop laboratory. She's hoping to observe the flower blooming when evening comes, and to spy on some insects she suspects of being the pollinators of these majestic trees. This parched land covered by thorny savanna and shadeless forest is the land of the Sakalavs, an ethnic group whose character has been forged by their harsh environment. Twice a day, Dimbriza and his family have to come into this forest, home to many lemurs. Dimbriza comes to collect nature's gift. This is his only riches, a baobab that he has transformed into a water reservoir, a baobab cistern.
We're used to managing our water from day to day. The baobab is the cornerstone of our life, but its wood is useless. You can't do anything with it. We don't eat much meat. We're not allowed to kill the zebu. We don't grow manioc. All we have, in fact, is the baobab. It's my life. It's a mother to me.
Dimbriza has hollowed out the tree trunk down to a height of 1.50 meters. This doesn't harm the tree and allows it to continue growing. After each rain, Dimbriza's family collects the rainwater from the ground and stores it in the baobab, a necessary reservoir to make it through the severe shortages of the dry season. Here, more than anywhere else, water is scarce, and so even more precious. On the Mahafali Plateau, finding water is a constant worry. The water from the baobab cistern meets the normal needs of the whole family.
This baobab takes the place of the zebu. It takes the place of a cart, of the goats that I don't have. It's my only treasure. That's why I take such good care of it. If the baobab dies, well, I disappear and my family along with me.
For 3 days now, the little crew of scientists and climbers have been camping in the bush at the foot of the trees. At first, the villagers were surprised by their setup, but now they've become a regular local attraction. One has to admit they are an intriguing sight. Every evening, the group from Tananarivo attracts more locals, curious to learn more about these strange experiments being carried out at nightfall. For a long time now, scientists thought that the only pollinators of the baobab were lemurs and bats. Only recently have botanists discovered the vital role played by a certain insect, the sphinx moth.
The sphinx moth is probably one of the insects that pollinate the baobab. We recently discovered that it is maybe the tree's main pollinator. Since it is a moth, it can easily carry pollen from one flower to another.
Élysée, Dilf, and Serre are getting ready to spend the night suspended between sky and earth. Up in the baobab, everything has been readied to observe the blossoming of the flowers. Now it's up to nature to play her role.
Je te laisse passer dans la fourche d'abord, parce qu'on ne pourra pas entrer nous deux direct.
D'accord.
It's really a whole expedition just getting to the tree at exactly the right time. But maybe that's exactly why I like this work. This phenomenon is very hard to observe. You have to work at it. And maybe that's what I find important in what I'm doing.
There's like a shudder of nature, a stirring, sign of its amazing vigor. And in a few minutes, the flower transforms and opens to the world. This is a magical and fleeting moment.
Madagascar is known for its very rich biodiversity. So if the baobab were ever to disappear, we'd lose a treasure. We'd lose our culture as well, and our identity, because the baobab is Madagascar.
Élisé's research has just begun. She wants to learn all she can about the baobabs in order to protect them. No one knows how to tell the age of a baobab. These imposing giants of nature must surely be over 1,000 years old. Testimony to the island's rich biodiversity, the baobabs have centuries of Madagascar's ecological history engraved in their flesh. Sarodrano, the end of the world. Living here means adapting to extreme isolation. In Malagasy, Sarodrano has two meanings: difficult waters and land surrounded by water. It is in fact both. We're in a village of the Vezo, Madagascar's great seafaring people, the nomads of the sea. The Vezo live all along the southwest coast of Madagascar, a region parched by the heat and regularly lashed by cyclones. Right from its early settlement, Sarodrano has turned its back away from the land and towards the sea. The village is located on a spit of sand that juts out into the Mozambique Channel. So the best way to get there is on foot or by the sea, which can sometimes be risky. The fishermen's outriggers are practically the only craft that dare venture across the coral reefs that ring the lagoons. Coming into this village is like landing on an island. Soloda is a native son of Sarodrano, native son of the wind and sea. The village has its daily routine. Every morning and evening during the cooler hours of the day, they go to fetch water.
Our village is called Sarodrano because before there was no water here. They had to go buy it in the neighboring villages. And that's what they had to do back in the olden days. Here, we have enough to eat. We raise a few animals, and the water we need is not all that far away.
The Vezo live in a quiet backwater away from the bustling world. Nature is the only thing that shapes their existence. In spite of the rudimentary conditions, Soledad is quite attached to his remote region. A few years ago, Soledad decided to come back to live where he was born. Before that, he had to leave his village in order to help out his family. He joined the Malagasy army. But the strict military life is a far cry from how these free men live. After years in uniform, he became a merchant, traveling the country to buy and sell rice. Again, not the ideal situation for him. So Soledad came back to Sarodrano to start a family. This is Soledad's family clan, 3 generations living in peace and harmony. Even though they are gradually becoming more sedentary, the Vezo have remained nomads at heart, as Soledad's father, the patriarch of the family, has always been.
It wasn't mere chance that brought us here. It's the will of the Creator that led us to this land. Before we were truly nomads, when there were no fish, we'd travel a long ways to find them. We'd settle in other fishing villages. The sea always wins in the end. She is mighty. We, men, we come and go, but the sea, she never dies.
In the Vezo tradition, there is a single god of the sea. He is all-powerful over the environment. He protects all those who travel on the water. The cliffs that dominate the village are a sacred site, the final resting place of the souls of the ancestors. For the Vezo, the spirits are everywhere. They hover over the sea and ensure the happiness of the living. But apart from their beliefs, the only thing that the fishermen have to face the elements is their long experience of the sea.
When there's a shipwreck, well, the whole village heads out in the boats to help. The carpenter is a very important person in the village. The fishermen come from all the neighboring villages to have their boats repaired. Boats come in every day here for repairs.
The lacas, the Vezo outrigger canoes, are surely identical to those used by their ancestors when they migrated here from Asia. The techniques used for constructing the lacas are a distillation of all these fishermen's sailing sense, the end product of an intuitive knowledge of the sea.
The boat is the heart of the Vezo people. A Vezo without his canoe is simply not a Vezo. He's just a vagabond. We use it to travel, to hunt octopus, to earn our living. The canoe is to the Vezo what the car is to foreigners.
The elegant gesture of the Vezo. In Malagasy, Vezo means simply one who paddles. They claim they are not an ethnic group or tribe. Being Vezo is a culture, a state of mind. It's a way of living from day to day, to the rhythm of the tides and the passing seasons. The sea is the only means of subsistence for these mariners of southern Madagascar.
Parents teach their children to sail very young, whenever they have spare time. This is the heritage that gets passed on. When children know what they're doing, they're put out to sea alone in the boat. Me too. I'll teach my children everything I know about the sea, because the sea is the Vezo's Bible.
Soledad has been fishing since he was 6. To scare the fish and drive them into the nets, it's always the same age-old technique.
When I come back to the village at noon, I decide then whether I'll go out again in the afternoon. It all depends on the morning's catch. If it's still no good in the afternoon, I'll go out again at night for shrimp. And that's what goes on in a fisherman's head.
Sailing, fishing, living on the water. In the end, Soledad yielded to the call of his destiny. The Vezo don't do any farming. They don't raise cattle. They live from and for the sea. It's their most precious possession. They never work the land, but why not farm the sea? With funding from an NGO, Soledad and some other fishermen have set up a seaweed farm. They're hoping to sell their crop abroad to the cosmetics and food industries.
When the plants are young, you have to take very special care of them every day. Check that there are no dead or broken branches. Because if you don't take care of them, the seaweed could die. And then if you get bad weather, there could be damage from floating debris. We don't have television to check the weather forecast. Sometimes we listen to the radio when we can. Otherwise, we watch the wind and listen to the sea.
This is the very beginning of an experiment that could mark a turning point in these people's lives. The seaweed shoots aren't mature yet, but if the project is a success, it will ensure them a steady source of income.
There's nothing here. It's untouched land. And we love it. We feel at home here. And the sea is full of food. The Vezo are attached to this place. We're not allowed to sell it. It's our heritage for future generations, so that they too can benefit from this spot. We feel good here. It warms our heart. There are a lot of people in the village, and we're happy.
The Vezo are a free people, a tightly knit group that help each other out. If nature doesn't have any nasty tricks in store for them, Soledad and the fishermen of Sarodrano may very well make a success of their project to farm the sea, their source of life, their sole riches. highlands in the center of Madagascar is a region where life follows the rhythm of the rice harvests. This plant, originally from Asia, is the staple food and part of the common heritage of all the Malagasy. It's the symbol of life. Rice and rice paddies also have a sacred significance for many Malagasy. At the frontier of the Central Highlands is another region, a mountainous lands inhabited by spirits, a land of peasants marked by the marriage of sky and granite. The Taranoro Valley is not all that far from civilization, yet it has long remained cut off, as if the world had forgotten this land where the mountains reach up into the skies. Gilles left his home in Marseille when he was 20, crossed Africa on foot, and lived in the Comoros Islands. Then in the late 1980s, he discovered Madagascar and at Taranoro, this quiet valley isolated from the rest of the world.
When we first came, we needed the four-wheel drive to get to the nearest large village, which is 10 kilometers away from the paved road. Then we had to continue on foot. There was no trail anymore. It was abandoned about 50 years back. There weren't even any ox carts in the valley. People only got around on foot, and the same went for us. I spent a good part of my life in the mountains. I grew up in Briançon in the high Alps in France, and I love the mountains. I've done a lot of cross-country skiing, climbing, kayak, some deltaplane. When I landed here, it was completely virgin territory. I think any climber would find this a paradise.
For Gilles, the Taranoro Valley was a revelation. He literally fell in love with this spot. And ever since, this nature lover has been covering the length and breadth of the valley to satisfy his yearning for nature. The valley is home to many herds of zebu, the peasants' only riches. But these animals are often the booty of human predators, the dahals, zebu thieves who strike at night. 800,000 head of cattle are stolen every year. It's a serious problem for Malagasy cattle herders.
Originally, it stems from a tradition. If you were a man and you wanted a wife, you had to steal a zebu at least once in your life. Now it's gotten out of hand. I don't know if it's a mafia, but there's a feeling of insecurity in the rural area. It's emptying the countryside. It's become depopulated because of this fear of rural banditry. It has nothing to do with tradition anymore. Every night there are children from the valley who come sleep up here. They call them the eyes of the mountains. They keep an eye on the herds.
Following in Gilles' footsteps, we discover the valley, its history, and its scars.
Wow, il se creuse celui-là.
This is a lavac, an open gash caused by erosion. Mountain runoff that has been channeled to irrigate the rice paddies in the valleys gouges deep ravines in the earth. These gaping wounds scarring these bald hills are the grim consequence of deforestation.
Nature is generous in Madagascar, but if we throw things too far out of balance, there will be negative consequences. Nature has her own defense mechanisms, but this is too much for her to handle. There's digging, erosion, and it's hard to undo. Phenomena like this are hard to control.
Today, Gilles and his hiking buddy Noah are getting ready to climb a cliff face overlooking the valley. The highest cliff here is 800 meters, and it's a notorious challenge to extreme rock climbers. This imposing granite wall is still unconquered. Not even the world's best climbers have managed to climb it in one go. Gilles and Noah don't take themselves for champion climbers. They opened and equipped a much easier climbing route.
Bon, il y a un plaisir physique, de toute façon, hein, je veux dire.
There's the physical pleasure. Climbing can be very physical. There's the pleasure of the gymnastics and the movements on the rock.
Gestuelle sur le rocher.
Then there's the idea of pushing yourself. The little athletic challenge. Can I do it? Yes, I can. No, I can't. It's really, really something. It's such a privilege. You look out on the valley and you're the only one out there. So peaceful. You're so far removed from civilization. You won't see a single telephone pole, a single road. Maybe 2 or 3 cattle herders, but you're really alone in the mountains. You can come and go as you please, and there's absolutely no one you have to answer to.
J'aurais pu m'arrêter ailleurs.
I could have settled down anywhere, but this valley was love at first sight. There's no rational explanation. Some places on Earth, you just feel wow. You get this vibration. It really hit me here. I said to myself, that's it. I found my paradise. I'd wandered a lot, and here I thought, really, this is perfect.
Du bonheur, là. Que du bonheur.
This is pure bliss. When you look around 360 degrees, it's really breathtaking. You have all the mountains from the Tarangire to the Bobby Peak, which is the country's second highest summit. There's the Sahara behind us, an incredible sheer cliff 800 meters high. It's really a spectacular landscape. One of a kind.
C'est unique.
The Tsaranoro Rodeo, a rice paddy bullfight. Trampling the rice paddies, it's a tradition and the teenagers just love it. It takes courage and daring to play this risky game. It's meant to prepare the rice fields for planting by churning them up into muddy wallows.
You can never tell when an accident might happen. If something goes wrong, we just have to tough it out. Accidents happen with the zebu mainly when you don't follow the advice of the adults. They tell us to watch out and to always be alert.
This valley used to be nearly all covered with forest. Slash and burn farming has had devastating results throughout the vast island. But out in the countryside, there's no other solution but to burn off the brush to regenerate the soil.
Androany zany andro iraisam-pirenena zany hoe journée des écoles ho an'ny.
Today is Madagascar's National School Day, a special day for school children. The pupils of Emile, the valley's school teacher, are going to plant trees today. It's not merely a symbolic act. It's a concrete gesture in favor of the environment. To get the seedlings, they head for Gilles' nursery. This Frenchman has been doggedly replanting the valley. For him, it's a way to connect with the villagers and the mountains where he has chosen to live. Gilles' nursery is open to all the local inhabitants. Every year, Gilles plants over 100,000 seedlings.
Ça va? Ça va et vous?
Voilà, mademoiselle.
We simply work with the kids. The adults won't change. It's too late. So every year at the same time, the children come and plant trees. When they're grown up, when the rains come, they'll continue to plant on their plots of land and little by little get the forest back into shape.
Throughout the island, school children devote 2 days a year to their natural environment. The school in the valley is a green school, sensitive to questions of agriculture and ecology. The school program is designed to stem the rural exodus. The whole philosophy is directed at getting the school children to consider making a life for themselves right here in the valley. And this is Gilles' goal as well. To that end, he has founded an association to reforest and protect the Saranoro Valley. A forest doesn't sprout up overnight. Gilles has set up a nursery of eucalyptus, a rapid growth tree that will meet the villagers' needs in wood. Year by year, Gilles' work is bearing fruit.
This is the new forest of Olomaka, the little village back there. The villagers did that. We planted 3,000 trees on a few acres of land. These saplings were planted 12, 13 months ago. And now in a few years, the villagers will be able to use the wood. Like that older stand of trees we planted 12 years ago. If we hope to reforest the mountains, the people have to be able to meet their needs in wood. We can't demand that they stop cutting wood just because cutting wood is bad. We must replace the wood they're not allowed to cut. I think I was meant to live here on this land. Deep down, I believe I was destined to live here. Not just here in Madagascar, but here in this valley. These wide open spaces, this virgin wilderness, have a certain grandeur. Here you sometimes find yourself very, very far from the modern world. That's what wide open spaces mean to me. Not just some kind of a well-manicured park. Just the opposite, a vast territory, terribly empty. When you come right down to it, the population is very sparse on this land. I mean on the island of Madagascar. You realize that you can live with very little here. And you meet people who, whatever may happen to them, they're always ready to laugh from morning to night. They have nothing, a clump of straw, a little machete, but they're happy.
Operation Tree Planting. At dawn, Gilles heads up the hill. It's the rainy season, time to plant. Over the years, Gilles has formed a crew of planters, a group of villagers won over to his cause. They plant young seedlings and also use Gilles' own particular technique. These balls are seeds coated in a mixture of dirt and zebu dung. The results are kind of haphazard. 15 to 20% of the seeds take root, but that's not the most important thing.
These hills are extremely bare. They've been ravaged. Even planting a tree, a little seed, is already something. My little association can't reforest the whole valley, all of Madagascar, the whole planet. We're trying to set an example. Look, we're planting. Just wait 2 or 3 years and you'll reap the benefits. There are trees that are beginning to bear fruit. So there are concrete results. On the road we replanted, when it's hot, people walk under the new trees. They stop and rest in the shade. They're starting to see the positive results. Erosion is starting to diminish. So we hope that by showing the people what action to take and what it can bring to their land, it will convince them to reverse the tendency, which is still to clear the trees to make pasture land.
C'est un endroit un peu particulier.
This is a kind of special place, Candalosa. It used to be a royal palace, and there's a funny story about it. The king was cruel with his subjects, so the subjects reacted towards him like one does with an abusive king. Well, they didn't decapitate him because it's taboo to draw royal blood here in Madagascar. They suffocated him. They suffocated him with bananas. Every time I come up here, I get a kind of weird feeling. It's my Malagasy side coming out. I'm starting to be influenced by the irrational local beliefs. You can't live here without assimilating a bit of the mysticism, the magic. You just can't. It's an integral part of life in Madagascar.
Ah, c'est des bons coups.
It's not easy. It takes 2 hours to hike up, so there's no way to bring water here. We have to give the trees the best conditions to start with, and then we wait and see.
In a few decades, the children of Saranora will be able to look out on their valley that's green year-round, and, as Gilles hopes, covered with forest. They will remember that their ancestors once crossed paths with an eccentric Frenchman who loved trees.
Jean Giono's book, The Man Who Planted Trees, really impressed me. The story of a shepherd who planted thousands of trees and reconstituted a whole forest. Even the authorities were surprised. What's this? A new forest? That left its mark on me. I'd like these people to remember me as the man who planted trees.